Imagine a single seed. Just a tiny seed. What could it become? A mighty oak? A flourishing garden? Or nothing at all if it's never planted? Today I want to talk to you about planting the seeds of prosperity, wealth, and success. Because wealth isn't just about money, it's about growth, impact, and the life you design. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract success effortlessly while others struggle endlessly? The difference isn't luck, it's principles. Timeless principles. And today I'll share 7 principles of prosperity and wealth that can change the way you think, act, and live. Clarity is power. Ask yourself, do you know exactly what you want? Real clarity is not just saying, I want to be rich. That's vague. True clarity is saying, I want to earn $100,000 a year doing work I love, by December 2026. Think about Thomas Edison. He didn't just tinker. He knew he wanted to bring light to the world. Every failure, every spark, he had clarity. Your first step? Write it down. Visualize it. Feel it. Because what you cannot see clearly, you cannot achieve. Plant before you reap. Nothing grows without planting. You cannot expect fruits if you never water the soil. Take Warren Buffett for example. He didn't become the Oracle of Omaha overnight. Every penny he invested, every small step was planting seeds for decades of growth. Ask yourself, what seeds are you planting today for your tomorrow? Your investments, your skills, your relationships. Plant them now. Discipline over motivation. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is lasting. The moment you rely on feelings, you falter. Look at Serena Williams. Did she only practice when she felt like it? No. Every early morning, every sore muscle, every loss, she showed discipline. Wealth grows in the daily habits. The small, consistent actions are what compound over time. Embrace risk, respect fear. Money and success love courage. But reckless decisions destroy. Do you remember the Wright brothers? They risked life and limb facing ridicule. But they respected the danger. They tested, calculated, prepared, and eventually conquered the skies. Ask yourself, where is fear holding you back? And what calculated risk can you take today to grow beyond it? Leverage the power of relationships. No one builds wealth alone. Your network is your net worth. Look at Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Alone they were talented. Together they changed the world. Invest in people. Mentor, learn, and collaborate. Wealth flows where connection grows. Give generously, receive abundantly. This principle is often overlooked. Prosperity is not just about keeping, it's about sharing. Oprah Winfrey gave tirelessly, and in return she received influence, love, and yes, financial abundance. Generosity plants seeds in ways you cannot measure. The more you give, the more the universe responds. Persistence is the ultimate multiplier. Finally, the most crucial principle: never stop. Success is a marathon, not a sprint. Think of J.K. Rowling. She was rejected by 12 publishers. But she persisted. Today Harry Potter has touched millions. Every obstacle is fertilizer for your growth. Every no is a step closer to your yes. So here's the truth. Prosperity is not magic. Wealth is not luck. It's planting seeds, nurturing them, and never giving up. Ask yourself tonight, which seeds will I plant? Which habits will I nurture? Which risks will I courageously take? Plant your seed today. Water it with discipline. Surround it with positivity. Give freely. And never ever stop. Because when you do, the tree you grow will bear fruit beyond your wildest dreams. Pause. Look around the room. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to plant your seed of success. Key takeaways. Clarity is essential. Know exactly what you want and visualize it. Plant before you reap. Success requires action and investment over time. Discipline beats fleeting motivation. Consistency compounds into wealth. Calculated risks fuel growth. Courage opens doors, fear is a guide. Relationships matter. Your network accelerates opportunities and success. Persistence multiplies results. Obstacles are stepping stones to achievement. Imagine waking up every morning with a fog over your mind, a haze that clouds every decision you make. You stumble through the day reacting to emails, notifications, the endless demands of life, never truly knowing where you are headed. Many people live like this, thinking they are chasing success, wealth, and prosperity, when in reality, they are wandering aimlessly in a vast forest without a compass. Now imagine the opposite. Waking up with a fire in your chest, A crystal clear vision that feels so tangible it almost dances in front of your eyes. You know exactly what you want, and every action, every thought, every word is aligned with that vision. That clarity, that precision of purpose, is not just a mental exercise. It is the first seed of every success story. Clarity is not about vague aspirations or half-formed dreams. It is not enough to say, "I want to be rich," or "I want to be successful." Those statements are like throwing seeds onto rocky ground, hoping they will grow without care. Real clarity is knowing the size of the tree you want to grow, the shape of its branches, the color of the leaves, and even the taste of its fruit. It is about setting a goal so specific that your mind begins to create a roadmap almost automatically. Imagine Thomas Edison in his workshop, surrounded by wires, bulbs, and glass. Did he simply want to invent a light bulb? No. He had an unshakable clarity. He wanted to bring light to the world. Every failure, every explosion, every moment of frustration was guided by that one unwavering vision. His mind could see the result even when his eyes could not, and that allowed him to persist through 10,000 failed experiments. Have you ever noticed how some people seem magnetic, always moving toward opportunities while others feel stuck in a rut? Those who are magnetic have clarity. They know who they are, what they want, and why it matters. Imagine a young woman named Sarah who dreams of building a business that helps single mothers find housing and education. She doesn't just dream vaguely, she writes down her goal. By the end of 2026, I will help 1,000 single mothers secure stable housing and educational programs through my foundation. That specificity transforms her goal into a living, breathing target. Every pitch she makes, every connection she nurtures, every dollar she invests is intentionally moving her closer to that vision. Clarity takes the abstract and makes it tangible. Clarity also protects you from distraction. In a world overflowing with options, opinions, and competing priorities, the mind can easily drift, chasing shiny objects, comparing itself to others, or succumbing to fear and doubt. But when you have clarity, your path becomes a laser beam. You don't waste energy on what doesn't matter. You don't flinch when someone says, "That's impossible," or, "Are you sure?" Because your internal vision is brighter than any external noise. Consider Elon Musk launching SpaceX. Many laughed when he said he wanted to make humanity multiplanetary. Yet his clarity about the mission, what he wanted to achieve, why it mattered, and the steps he needed to take, kept him focused through failed rockets, financial crises, and public skepticism. Without that clarity, it would have been impossible to persevere. Clarity also ignites emotion. Have you ever had a dream so vivid it made your heart race and your palms sweat just thinking about it? That is the energy of clarity. It is what makes you leap out of bed before sunrise, what keeps you up at night with ideas that won't leave your mind. It's what makes work feel like play because your actions are not random, they are purposeful. Steve Jobs once said, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there." That is the power of clarity. It gives you direction, precision, and the confidence to take steps that others are too afraid or too uncertain to take. And clarity is not static. It grows as you act. It's like stepping into a foggy forest at dawn. At first you can barely see your feet. But with each step the trees become defined, the path unfolds, and your senses sharpen. The more you write down your vision, speak it aloud, and live it intentionally, the more the universe seems to respond. Opportunities appear, mentors find you, and decisions that once felt impossible become simple. Michael Jordan didn't become the greatest basketball player by casually hoping to be good. He visualized each shot, each game-winning moment, each championship. His clarity created a magnetic field that drew skill, opportunity, and timing into alignment. Even ordinary decisions gain extraordinary weight with clarity. Imagine two people walking into the same grocery store. One wanders aimlessly, tossing random items into the cart, thinking vaguely about health and nutrition. The other knows exactly what they need: kale, quinoa, almond milk. They move with purpose, select with intention, and walk out with exactly what nourishes their body. Wealth works the same way. Clear intentions allow you to recognize the right investments, the right partnerships, the right skills to acquire, and avoid the countless distractions that drain energy and resources. Clarity also forces introspection. It asks you, what do you truly value? What would make your life meaningful, not just comfortable? It challenges you to distinguish between desires imposed by society and dreams that are authentically yours. When a young artist dreams of fame, clarity helps them realize whether they want the art itself, the applause, or the impact they can have on others' lives. When you understand the why behind your goals, your actions gain depth and resilience. The seed you plant is no longer superficial. It is rooted in purpose, giving it the strength to survive storms. And let us not forget the power of writing it down. There's a reason successful people, from Oprah Winfrey to Richard Branson, keep journals, vision boards, and detailed plans. Writing transforms a thought into a contract with yourself. It signals to your subconscious, this matters. I will not settle for less. There is magic in seeing your goal in black and white. It solidifies what once floated as a dream into something tangible, achievable, and alive. Clarity, in essence, is the lens through which all other principles of success and prosperity focus. Without it, even talent, hard work, or luck can scatter in multiple directions. With it, every effort compounds, every decision aligns, and the path to wealth and fulfillment becomes illuminated. It is the invisible compass, the secret map, and the silent mentor that whispers, "Keep going, you are on the right path," even when the world doubts you. So ask yourself right now, not tomorrow, not next week. Do you see your life clearly? Do you know the exact tree you want to grow, the garden you want to cultivate, and the fruit you wish to harvest? Clarity is not a luxury. It is the very first step in planting the seed of success. And the moment you claim it, feel it, and live it, the seed begins to sprout, and the journey toward prosperity begins to take shape before your very eyes, in ways you cannot yet imagine. Imagine walking into a vast empty field, the soil rich, dark, and full of potential. In your hand you hold a handful of seeds, each one representing a dream, a goal, a future filled with possibilities. Now, picture what would happen if you simply held on to those seeds, admiring their promise but never dropped them into the earth. They remain lifeless, dry, and unfulfilled, their potential wasted. That is exactly what happens when people wait for the perfect moment to start, when they hesitate, thinking that success will somehow appear without effort, without planting the seed. Wealth, prosperity, and fulfillment never fall into our laps. They grow, slowly, steadily, patiently, through action, care, and faith. Consider the story of Warren Buffett, often called the Oracle of Omaha. Many see him today as a financial genius, but his journey was not a matter of luck or sudden fortune. At the age of 11, he bought his first stock. Just one share, a small investment almost symbolic in its size. But it was his first seed. Over the next decades he planted more, investing, learning, saving, studying, and observing the market. Each small, consistent action was a seed placed carefully into the fertile soil of his future. By the time he reached adulthood, those tiny seeds had grown into a forest of wealth, knowledge, and influence. The principle is simple. You cannot reap what you haven't planted, and you cannot expect a mighty harvest without effort and patience. Let me tell you about a young woman named Amira. She dreamed of opening a community cafe where local artists could display their work, where neighbors could gather and connect, where conversations sparked ideas. At first she hesitated. The rent seemed high, the competition fierce. She told herself she would wait for the perfect moment. Months passed. Years passed. Nothing happened. One day, inspired by the realization that action was the only way forward, she decided to take the first step. She started small, selling coffee from a cart, talking to local artists, creating connections. Each tiny effort was a seed planted. Slowly, her reputation grew, her network expanded, and when she finally opened her cafe, it was already filled with eager patrons, collaborators, and friends. Had she waited for perfection, the dream might never have taken root. The harvest came because she dared to plant before she reaped. Planting before you reap is not just about action. It's about faith. It's about trusting the process when the outcome is invisible, trusting that the seeds you sow today will eventually bear fruit. The Wright brothers understood this better than anyone. In their small bicycle shop, they experimented tirelessly with gliders and engines, crashing more often than succeeding. Neighbors laughed, skeptics doubted, but they kept planting seeds of trial, error, and learning. Each failed flight, each setback was part of the cultivation process. They could not yet see the plane soaring through the sky, but they understood that only through planting, testing, and refining would their vision take flight. The day the flyer lifted off the ground, it was not a moment of luck. It was the harvest of countless seeds carefully sown over years of patience and persistence. Think of it this way. Planting is often invisible. A farmer sows seeds beneath the surface. The world sees only barren soil. Rain comes, sun rises, and yet for weeks nothing appears. Some might grow impatient, digging up the soil to see why nothing has happened. But beneath the surface, roots are forming, connections are building, growth is occurring silently, invisibly. Your own efforts work the same way. Every skill you practice, every relationship you nurture, every dollar you invest, every idea you explore. These are roots growing beneath the surface. They will eventually break through as leaves, flowers, and fruit, but only if you allow time, patience, and consistency to do their work. Let me take you to another example, one closer to home. Think of a young man named Ravi who dreamed of becoming a novelist. He spent years reading, observing, and understanding the human experience. Every day he wrote a few pages, even when the words felt clumsy or the story incomplete. He submitted manuscripts and faced rejection after rejection. Many would have quit. Many did. But Ravi kept planting seeds with every paragraph, every character sketch, every submission. A decade later, his book was published and became a bestseller. Each rejection, each no, had been fertilizer for growth. He did not wait for inspiration to strike or for the perfect moment. He planted tirelessly, and eventually the harvest arrived. Planting before you reap also means investing in yourself. You cannot expect wealth without investing your time, your energy, your mind, and sometimes your money. Think of education, learning, and skill building as seeds. Every hour you dedicate to improving yourself is a seed planted for future prosperity. Even small efforts compound over time. Consider Benjamin Franklin. He began as a printer's apprentice, a young boy with limited resources. Every book he read, every skill he learned, every habit he cultivated was a seed. By the time he reached adulthood, those seeds had grown into a life of innovation, influence, and wealth that shaped a nation. There is a common thread in all these stories. Action comes before reward. Many people look at someone successful and imagine that the harvest appeared magically. They see the tree fully grown but forget the painstaking work required to plant it, nurture it, and wait for it to mature. The truth is, seeds demand attention. They require care, water, sunlight, and patience. The effort is invisible for a long time, but it is indispensable. The universe, in a sense, rewards those who plant with intention, who persist with faith, and who understand that growth cannot be rushed. Planting before you reap also builds resilience. When you know that effort precedes reward, failure is no longer a dead end. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes part of the soil enriching your future growth. Consider J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she faced poverty, rejection, and doubt. Yet every manuscript she wrote, every attempt to pitch her book, was a seed planted for future triumph. Her persistence transformed invisible labor into extraordinary results. Even in everyday life, the principle applies. Think of relationships, health, and personal growth. You cannot expect strong, supportive friendships without sowing kindness, trust, and time. You cannot expect physical vitality without planting habits of exercise, nutrition, and rest. You cannot expect inner peace without planting moments of reflection, gratitude, and mindfulness. Wealth is not limited to money. It encompasses every area of life, and in all of them, planting before reaping is the foundation. Planting before you reap demands courage. It is easier to wait for the right moment, to wish and hope that prosperity will arrive without effort. But growth requires vulnerability, effort, and a willingness to start imperfectly. It requires saying, "I will begin now, even if I do not yet see the harvest." It means taking that first step, making that first investment, writing that first page, reaching out to that first person. Every small action matters, and together they form a forest of possibility. And as you plant, remember this: patience is your ally. Seeds take time to sprout. Roots form slowly, and fruit may be seasons away. But the act of planting, repeated daily, builds momentum. It transforms hope into habit, vision into reality, and intention into tangible results. The harvest is not immediate, but it is inevitable for those who plant wisely, consistently, and with faith in the process. Have you ever noticed how motivation feels like a spark? It ignites quickly, fills you with energy, and makes you feel unstoppable. But like a spark in a dry forest, it often burns out almost as fast as it appears. That is the challenge many people face. They wait for motivation to strike before taking action, thinking that energy and inspiration are prerequisites for progress. But real success, the kind that builds wealth, fulfillment, and lasting change, is not fueled by fleeting motivation. It is powered by discipline. Discipline is the quiet force that carries you forward when your heart is tired, when excitement has faded, when every reason to quit seems louder than the reason to continue. Think of Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes of all time. People marvel at her victories, her gold medals, her dominance on the tennis court. They see the glory, but few understand the daily grind. Every morning before sunrise, long before fans filled stadiums, Serena was on the court practicing serves, footwork, and drills, pushing her body to limits most of us cannot imagine. Motivation alone could never have sustained her through the countless hours of practice, the sore muscles, the defeats, and the setbacks. It was discipline to show up, to keep moving, to trust the process, to honor the commitment she made to herself. Discipline is what transforms talent into greatness, dreams into reality, and potential into achievement. Let me tell you a story about a young man named David. David dreamed of starting his own tech company, building software that could help small businesses manage their operations. Every time he felt inspired, he would work late into the night, coding with fire in his veins. But inspiration comes and goes. Some nights, exhaustion weighed him down. Some days, distractions and doubts tried to pull him away. It was discipline that kept him coding day after day, week after week, even when he felt uninspired, even when the progress seemed invisible. That daily discipline compounded into skills, knowledge, and eventually the launch of a successful product. Motivation had sparked the idea, but discipline had carried it to completion. Discipline also teaches consistency, the invisible multiplier of success. Imagine a drop of water falling on a stone, day after day. At first, nothing seems to happen. But over months, years, decades, that persistent drip carves grooves into the rock, shaping it, transforming it. The same is true for your efforts. Small, disciplined actions repeated consistently lead to outcomes that would have seemed impossible at the start. Consider Thomas Edison again. Motivation could not have carried him through thousands of failed experiments while inventing the electric light bulb. Discipline, the commitment to showing up, testing, adjusting, and trying again, turned failure into mastery. It is in this repetition, this relentless pursuit, that excellence is forged. Discipline is also a shield against temptation and distraction. In a world overflowing with easy escapes, social media, binge-watching, endless notifications, it takes a disciplined mind to stay focused on what truly matters. Michael Jordan, often hailed as the greatest basketball player ever, tells stories of the countless hours he spent in the gym, the shots he practiced over and over, the conditioning he pushed himself through while others slept or played. He didn't rely on motivation to decide whether to train. He relied on discipline. And that discipline made him unstoppable, a man who transformed his innate talent into legendary skill. Even in everyday life, discipline has an almost magical effect. Think of someone trying to get healthy. Motivation might push them to work out for a week after watching an inspiring video or reading an article. But when motivation fades, and it always does, they must rely on discipline. They schedule workouts, they prepare meals in advance, they honor the commitment to their own body and health. Slowly, those disciplined choices become habits. Slowly, the body transforms, energy rises, and confidence grows. The reward is not instantaneous, but it is enduring. Discipline also builds character. It is easy to be disciplined when everything is going well, when motivation is high, when the path is smooth. The real test comes during setbacks, when challenges loom, when fatigue sets in, when external circumstances threaten to derail your progress. The disciplined person moves anyway. They honor the promise they made to themselves. They understand that every choice, no matter how small, is a vote for the life they are creating. J.K. Rowling wrote her first Harry Potter manuscript in cafes, while struggling with poverty, doubt, and rejection. Motivation alone could not have carried her through the loneliness, the criticism, the obstacles. Discipline, the choice to write consistently, even when it hurt, even when it seemed hopeless, built the foundation for a story that would captivate millions. Discipline is not a punishment. It is empowerment. It is the invisible force that frees you from the tyranny of moods, the limitations of fleeting inspiration, and the chaos of distraction. Imagine a sailor navigating the vast ocean. Motivation is the wind. Sometimes it blows, sometimes it dies down. Discipline is the rudder, the anchor, the sails carefully adjusted to stay on course regardless of the wind. The sailor who relies solely on wind will drift aimlessly, while the one who masters the rudder and sails will reach the destination no matter how unpredictable the seas. And here's the beauty of discipline: it compounds. Every small effort, every moment of focus, every habit maintained builds momentum. Just as small seeds planted consistently grow into a forest, disciplined actions accumulate into mastery, wealth, and fulfillment. Consider the story of a young writer named Maya. Every morning she woke up before sunrise to write 500 words, even when she felt tired, uninspired, or discouraged. Some days the words felt clumsy, some days the ideas dried up. But she persisted. Months turned into years, and those disciplined mornings produced manuscripts, stories, and eventually a published novel. The reward was not from a single inspired moment but from the daily practice, the relentless honoring of a commitment to herself and her craft. Discipline also fosters confidence. When you know you have consistently shown up, worked hard, and honored your commitments, you develop a quiet, unshakable self-belief. You trust that when challenges arise, you have the inner resources to meet them. This confidence is not born from luck or temporary motivation. It is forged through the steady application of effort over time. When opportunities arise, you are ready. When adversity strikes, you are resilient. Discipline equips you with the power to act when others hesitate, to persist when others quit, and to succeed when others merely hope. Discipline, ultimately, is the bridge between goals and achievement. Motivation may light the first spark, but discipline carries the fire across the distance. It is the choice to act when inspiration fades, the commitment to the process when results are invisible, the courage to persist when obstacles loom. Without discipline, dreams remain dreams. With it, the impossible becomes possible. Have you ever stood on the edge of a cliff, feeling the wind whip around you, the ground solid beneath your feet, and yet your heart pounding with both excitement and terror? That tension, that mixture of fear and possibility, is exactly what defines the moments that shape our lives. Fear is not the enemy of success. It is a guide, a signal that something important lies ahead. Risk, when calculated and embraced, is the bridge between the life you have and the life you dream of. The truth is, every story of wealth, prosperity, and achievement is filled with moments where fear whispered, "Turn back," but courage answered, "Not today." Take the Wright brothers, for instance. In a small workshop cluttered with bicycles, gears, and scraps of wood, Orville and Wilbur built contraptions that defied common sense. People laughed at them. Experts dismissed them. Yet they persisted, not in spite of fear but with a profound respect for it. They understood that every attempt carried danger, that miscalculation could end in failure or injury. And still they tested, adjusted, and tried again. Each flight was a calculated risk, each experiment a lesson. When the flyer finally lifted into the air, it was not luck. It was courage guided by respect, fear acknowledged but not allowed to paralyze. Risk is the pulse of opportunity. Without it, growth is impossible. But blind recklessness is a trap. True prosperity requires the ability to weigh fear, understand it, and then act with precision. Imagine a young woman named Lena, who dreamed of opening an eco-friendly startup. She had a stable corporate job, a steady paycheck, and the comfort of certainty. Every instinct screamed at her to stay safe, to avoid the risk. And yet, every night she imagined the life she could create, the impact she could have on the environment, the legacy she could leave. So she began cautiously, researching markets, building prototypes in her spare time, speaking to potential partners. Every step involved risk, yet every step was informed by careful planning and respect for what could go wrong. Eventually, her startup launched, gaining attention and clients she could never have imagined. The harvest came because she embraced the right risks, respected her fear, and allowed it to guide her, not stop her. Consider Steve Jobs when he decided to return to Apple in 1997. The company was floundering, on the verge of collapse, yet he took the risk of stepping back into a sinking ship. Many warned him it was a mistake, that the failure could be catastrophic. But Jobs respected the danger, understood the stakes, and acted with vision and courage. He transformed Apple into a global powerhouse. The risk was enormous, but it was calculated, informed, and guided by a respect for reality. This principle, embracing risk while respecting fear, is a hallmark of every extraordinary achievement. Fear also reveals the boundaries of our comfort zones. Every time we hesitate, every time our chest tightens, Every time our mind warns us that we might fail, it is signaling that we are at the edge of growth. Imagine a tightrope walker stepping out onto a wire strung high above the ground. The fear is immediate, visceral, unavoidable. Yet without stepping onto the wire, without testing that balance, the walk is impossible. The same principle applies to business, to investments, to relationships, to every venture that requires growth. Those who succeed are not fearless. They are aware of fear, respect it, and step forward anyway. Take Richard Branson for example. Over and over he has embraced ventures that others deemed impossible or too dangerous, from airlines to space travel. Each move carried risk, financial, reputational, personal. But Branson respects fear. He studies, he prepares, he mitigates, and then he acts. Fear becomes a compass, pointing toward opportunity, guiding decisions rather than stopping them. Every risk he takes is an intentional seed planted for potential growth, not a reckless gamble hoping for luck. Even in everyday life, the principle of embracing risk while respecting fear applies. Think of a young professional named Ahmed who dreamed of switching careers from accounting to filmmaking. Every logical thought screamed to stay in the stability of spreadsheets and deadlines. But Ahmed's passion burned quietly, a whisper he could no longer ignore. He spent nights studying scripts, making short films, networking with filmmakers. The financial risk was real, the fear of failure tangible, but he respected those fears and planned carefully, creating a safety net while he pursued his dream. Years later, Ahmed's films gained recognition, and the fear that once held him back became the very force that propelled him forward. Fear, when respected, is not a stop sign, it is a guidepost. It forces preparation, attention, and humility. Those who ignore it may rush recklessly into disaster. Those who let it dominate may never move at all. The sweet spot lies in acknowledging fear, understanding its lessons, and moving deliberately through it. Even in history, the greatest achievements were forged in the crucible of risk and fear. When the explorers set out to cross oceans, they did not have maps, GPS, or assurances. They had ships, provisions, knowledge, and the courage to face the unknown. Magellan, Columbus, and countless others respected the dangers, the storms, the unknown lands, the potential for failure, but they also embraced the possibility of discovery, wealth, and legacy. Their risks were enormous, their fear real, and their courage extraordinary. Think about it in terms of growth in your own life. How many dreams lie dormant because the risk seems too high, the fear too strong, the unknown too intimidating? The truth is, every step forward will involve uncertainty. Every investment in yourself, every decision to pursue a dream, every leap beyond comfort is a calculated risk. And each risk carries the potential to transform your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. And yet, embracing risk is not reckless courage. It is intelligence in motion. It is the ability to analyze, to prepare, to plan, to anticipate, and then to act. Every entrepreneur, every artist, every pioneer knows that fear is a companion, not an enemy. The fear that tightens your chest is a signal to proceed with wisdom, to respect the unknown, and to act with intention. Every risk becomes a choice, every choice becomes a step forward, and every step forward compounds into the life you dream of. When you learn to embrace risk while respecting fear, you begin to see life differently. The edge of the cliff is no longer terrifying, it is the launch point. The unknown is no longer paralyzing, it is opportunity. The failures you once feared become lessons, fertilizer for future growth, proof that you dared to step into the arena while others remained on the sidelines. Each calculated risk becomes a seed planted for prosperity, each act of courage a brick in the foundation of success. And as you act, you will notice something remarkable. Fear diminishes in proportion to action. The more you step forward, the more calculated risks you take, the more you honor your fear without letting it control you, the stronger you become. It is not the absence of fear that leads to success. It is the mastery of fear through deliberate action. Every great life, every extraordinary achievement, every story of wealth and fulfillment carries this lesson. Embrace risk, respect fear, and let courage be your guide. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers, each person carrying their own story, talents, and experiences. Now imagine that within this room lies the key to your next opportunity, your next breakthrough, your next transformation. Relationships are more than connections. They are lifelines, bridges, and catalysts for growth. Every great achievement, every moment of prosperity, is built not in isolation, but in collaboration, trust, and shared vision. Yet so often people underestimate the power of relationships, thinking success is a solitary journey, a climb made alone. The truth is, wealth, influence, and impact are multiplied exponentially when cultivated through connection. Think of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Alone each was talented. Alone each had ideas. But together their partnership became revolutionary. Wozniak's technical genius and Jobs' vision for design and user experience fused to create Apple. The company that transformed the way the world communicates, works, and creates would never have existed without the collaboration between two minds, two hearts, and two people who understood the value of synergy. Their story is a powerful reminder. Relationships are not optional, they are essential. Consider a young woman named Alina who dreamed of launching a social enterprise to provide clean water to underserved communities. At first, she worked tirelessly on her own, writing grants, designing campaigns, and researching solutions. But progress was slow. Then she reached out, she connected with engineers, local leaders, and fellow social entrepreneurs. Each person she brought into her circle became a force multiplier. An engineer helped design cost-effective water filters. A community leader facilitated local implementation. A mentor provided guidance and access to critical funding. Alina learned that wealth and impact are rarely the product of solitary effort. They are the result of relationships nurtured with intention, trust, and generosity. Relationships also provide knowledge and perspective that cannot be gained alone. Imagine navigating a dense forest without a map or compass. You may stumble, take wrong turns, or wander endlessly. Now imagine having guides, people who have walked similar paths, who can show you hidden shortcuts, who can warn you of pitfalls. In life and in business, relationships are your guides. Warren Buffett famously emphasizes the importance of learning from others. "The best thing I did was to choose the right heroes," he said. By connecting with mentors, colleagues, and experts, you accelerate your growth, avoid costly mistakes, and gain insight that no solitary effort could provide. Even in everyday life, the ripple effects of relationships are profound. Think of a young professional named Omar who wanted to break into the film industry. Alone, he sent countless resumes and queries, often ignored. Then he began networking intentionally. He attended workshops, spoke to filmmakers, and offered assistance on small projects. Over time, these relationships turned into collaborations, recommendations, and opportunities that would have been impossible without connection. One small act of generosity, one genuine conversation, became the doorway to his first major role in a production. Relationships are the invisible currency that opens doors, creates possibilities, and magnifies your impact. And it is not just about receiving, it is about giving. Generosity, support, and mentorship build relationships that endure. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential figures of our time, often emphasizes that giving her time, energy, and resources to others has been central to her success. The relationships she nurtured, through mentorship, collaboration, and authentic connection, amplified her influence and created opportunities that extended far beyond what she could have achieved alone. Every person she helped, every network she built, became a ripple that carried her vision forward. Relationships also act as accountability. When you surround yourself with people who believe in your vision, who challenge you, who hold you to your promises, you elevate your standards. Consider a young entrepreneur named Raj, who wanted to build a sustainable clothing brand. He knew his personal motivation could waver, so he intentionally connected with a group of peers in the industry. They met weekly, shared goals, celebrated milestones, and confronted challenges together. That network became a source of discipline, insight, and resilience, ensuring that Raj stayed committed to his vision even when the journey felt daunting. Relationships provide the scaffolding for our growth, the invisible support that keeps us moving when obstacles arise. The power of relationships also lies in diversity. The richest connections are not always with people who mirror you, who think like you, or who share your background. Often, it is in connecting with those who challenge your assumptions, who offer different perspectives, who push you beyond comfort, that true growth occurs. Look at the collaboration between Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Their complementary strengths, one visionary, one technical, created Microsoft. The magic of their relationship was in the difference, in the ability to leverage each other's unique skills, insights, and viewpoints. Even the simplest gestures can strengthen relationships. A handwritten note, a word of encouragement, a genuine compliment, a moment of listening. These are seeds that grow into trust, loyalty, and opportunity. Think of a teacher who takes extra time to mentor a student, a colleague who shares critical knowledge, a friend who believes in your potential when you doubt yourself. These connections, often small and subtle, accumulate into a network of support that propels you toward your goals. Relationships are not transactional. They are relational, nurtured through empathy, trust, and authenticity. And let us not forget timing. A relationship cultivated today may become an opportunity years from now. Connections planted now, nurtured consistently, can bloom into partnerships, collaborations, and achievements that would have seemed impossible when the relationship was first formed. Consider a young musician named Maya who spent years performing at local venues, connecting with other artists, producers, and fans. Years later, one of those early connections led to a record deal that launched her career. The harvest came not from a single event, but from the deliberate, consistent planting of relationships over time. Relationships also provide resilience. Life is unpredictable. Challenges, failures, and setbacks are inevitable. But when you have a network of support, when you have allies, mentors, and friends who understand your vision, you gain strength. You gain perspective. You gain the courage to persist. Think of a startup founder facing a funding crisis, a writer struggling with rejection, an activist confronting systemic barriers. The difference between those who persevere and those who give up often lies in the relationships that surround them, the people who encourage, advise, and walk alongside them. And here is the most important lesson. Your network is your net worth, not just in financial terms but in opportunities, knowledge, support, and influence. Every relationship you cultivate, every connection you nurture, every act of authenticity you extend becomes a seed planted for future prosperity. You cannot succeed alone. Even the most brilliant minds, the most talented individuals, the most driven people rely on relationships to amplify their vision, to navigate challenges, and to turn potential into reality. Leverage relationships with intentionality, with authenticity, and with generosity. Seek to give as much as you receive. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and hold you accountable. Build bridges, not walls. Extend your hand before you need it, listen before you speak, and invest in people as passionately as you invest in your goals. Relationships are living organisms. They grow when nurtured, flourish when respected, and produce fruit beyond what any individual effort could achieve. The truth is, success is rarely solitary. Every breakthrough, every achievement, every moment of wealth and impact carries the fingerprints of others. Mentors, peers, collaborators, and supporters form the invisible scaffolding of our accomplishments. To ignore relationships is to ignore one of the most powerful tools in the pursuit of prosperity. The path to wealth, influence, and fulfillment is not just paved with hard work and vision. It is paved with connection, empathy, and collaboration. Picture a small village tucked between rolling hills, where everyone knows everyone else, and life moves at the pace of the seasons. In this village lived a man named Amir who owned a modest bakery. Every morning, the aroma of fresh bread would drift through the streets, drawing neighbors to his shop. But Amir's wealth was not counted in coins. It was measured in the relationships he nurtured, the smiles he shared, and the generosity he extended without expectation. When a family couldn't pay for bread, Amir gave it freely. When travelers passed through with empty pockets, he offered sustenance and warmth. Over time, something remarkable happened. Word spread, customers came from miles around, and the small bakery flourished beyond what he had imagined. His generosity had not diminished him. It had multiplied. Generosity is the seed of abundance. It is the principle that the more you give, of your time, your resources, your knowledge, or your love, the more the universe has a way of returning to you, often in unexpected ways. Think of Andrew Carnegie, who built one of the greatest fortunes in history. Carnegie believed deeply in the power of giving, famously saying, "Surplus wealth is a sacred trust which its possessor is bound to administer in his lifetime for the good of the community." He gave away the majority of his fortune to build libraries, schools, and foundations, and in doing so, created a legacy that extended far beyond his own lifetime. The act of giving did not diminish his success. It elevated it, multiplied it, and left a mark that generations would remember. Let me tell you a story about a young woman named Sophia. Sophia worked in a corporate office and dreamed of building her own consulting business. She had skills, ideas, and vision, but she also had hesitations. One day she decided to offer free mentorship to a few struggling entrepreneurs. sharing her knowledge, time, and insights without expecting anything in return. Months passed. Those small acts of generosity seemed invisible at first, but over time, the recipients shared her guidance with others, recommended her to clients, and invited her into opportunities she could never have accessed alone. Sophia realized that giving freely was not a loss. It was a multiplier, a magnet for opportunity, trust, and abundance. Generosity also transforms the giver. When you give without expectation, without counting the cost, you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. You begin to see the world not as a place where resources are limited, but as a place overflowing with possibility. It changes how you approach life, business, and relationships. It teaches gratitude, empathy, and vision. Imagine a musician who shares their music online for free, not for immediate profit, but to inspire others. Over time, that generosity builds a following, recognition, and income streams that could not have existed if the musician had hoarded their talent. The act of giving opens doors to abundance that no transaction could create alone. Consider Mother Teresa, whose life exemplified this principle. She gave tirelessly, often in conditions of extreme difficulty, to care for the sick, the poor, and the abandoned. She never expected reward, never calculated profit, never sought recognition. Yet her generosity created ripples that extended far beyond Calcutta. People around the world were inspired, motivated, and transformed by her actions. Her abundance was not financial but spiritual, emotional, and social, a wealth that money alone cannot measure. The lesson is clear. Giving freely creates a flow of abundance that is far greater than what you initially invest. Even small acts of giving have profound impact. Think of a teacher who spends extra time helping a struggling student, a neighbor who shares a meal with someone in need, or a colleague who offers guidance to someone navigating a new challenge. Each act may seem small, almost insignificant, but like seeds planted in fertile soil, they grow over time. That student may become a future leader, the neighbor may inspire others, the colleague may create a chain of support that transforms careers. Generosity compounds, often in ways that are invisible at first, and creates a life that is not only prosperous but deeply meaningful. And generosity is not only about material wealth. Giving your time, attention, encouragement, and wisdom is equally powerful. Imagine a young entrepreneur named Jamal who felt stuck in his career. He began volunteering his skills at a local nonprofit, offering mentorship to students learning coding and technology. He expected nothing in return. Over the years, the relationships he built through generosity brought him opportunities, collaborations, and partnerships he could never have imagined. Jamal's generosity created abundance because he chose to focus on contribution rather than immediate gain, on value rather than reward. Generosity also strengthens relationships. When people see your willingness to give without expectation, trust forms. Loyalty grows. Opportunities multiply. Look at the relationship between Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Both have been relentless in giving. Gates through philanthropy, Buffett through pledges of wealth. Their mutual respect, trust, and shared values not only amplified their impact but also created networks of influence and collaboration that magnified their reach. Giving generously builds a currency far more valuable than money: respect, influence, and lasting connection. Generosity is also an antidote to fear and scarcity. When you give freely, you signal to yourself in the world that abundance exists, that there is enough to go around, that opportunity is not a zero-sum game. Fear and scarcity shrink vision, create hesitation, and limit growth. Generosity expands vision, cultivates courage, and attracts opportunities. Imagine an investor who mentors young entrepreneurs, shares insights, and supports their growth. In return, those entrepreneurs may bring innovative ideas, partnerships, or collaborations that benefit the investor far beyond the initial act of giving. And generosity inspires others to give. One act of giving sparks another, creating a ripple effect that multiplies exponentially. When a single person donates time, resources, or wisdom, it often encourages others to do the same. A community, a network, or even a movement can grow from a single generous act. Imagine a single teacher dedicating extra hours to support students. Those students grow into leaders who in turn give back, creating cycles of impact, prosperity, and abundance that continue for generations. Giving generously also teaches humility and perspective. It reminds you that wealth is not just what you keep, but what you create, share, and multiply in the lives of others. It shifts focus from accumulation to contribution, from self-interest to shared success. Think of a small business owner who mentors young entrepreneurs in their field, sharing knowledge, lessons, and strategies without expecting payment. Over time, these young entrepreneurs become partners, collaborators, and advocates, creating a network of abundance that elevates the entire ecosystem. Finally, giving generously and receiving abundantly are inseparable. The universe responds to energy, intention, and action. The more you give without expectation, the more opportunities, relationships, insights, and even financial abundance flow back to you. The principle is simple. Generosity is not subtraction. It is multiplication. When you invest in the success of others, when you lift as you climb, when you plant seeds of kindness, knowledge, and resources, you create a garden of abundance that nourishes not only those around you but also your own life. So now that you've discovered the 7 principles of prosperity and wealth, it's time to ask yourself, are you ready to plant the seeds that will transform your life forever? If the answer is yes, hit that subscribe button. Not because I said so, but because your future self deserves the tools, strategies, and mindset to thrive. Comment below. Which principle will you start applying today and why? Let's spark a conversation that can change lives. Like the video, subscribe, and join a community of people who refuse to settle for anything less than extraordinary. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to achieve everything they want, while others struggle their entire lives? Why does the top 1% always seem to be one step ahead? Today I'm going to reveal a secret, something Florence Scovel Shinn taught decades ago. It's not about luck, not about being smarter. It's about thinking differently. Think about this. The richest people in the world, the innovators, the visionaries, do they wake up and just hope for success? No. They expect it. They speak it into existence. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. Let me tell you a story. Imagine 2 farmers. One sees a barren field and thinks, it's hopeless. Nothing will grow here. The other sees the same field and says, what if I try a new seed? What if I irrigate differently? What if I believe this can bloom? Which farmer do you think ends up harvesting a golden crop? Exactly. Ask yourself, how often do you see obstacles and stop? How often do you see a challenge and say, I can't? Florence Scovel Shinn believed in the power of words. Words are magnetic. They draw what you speak into your life. If you constantly say, I can't, guess what? You won't. But if you say, I can, I will, I am worthy of success, the universe listens. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Did he see failure? No. He said, I just found 1,000 ways that won't work. Do you see the mindset shift? Failure didn't stop him. It propelled him forward. The top 1% doesn't compete for scraps. They create more. They think in abundance. Imagine a pie. Most people fight over the slices. The top 1%. They bake a bigger pie. It's a mindset. And it's contagious. Think about a magnet. A strong magnet doesn't push things away. It pulls things toward it. Your thoughts are the same. Are you attracting opportunity or pushing it away? Thinking differently isn't enough. The top 1% act on their beliefs. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They start now, adjust later. Do you know who started Apple in a garage with almost nothing? Steve Jobs. Did he wait for perfection? No. He acted on vision. And the world changed forever. Here's the truth. If you keep thinking like the 99%, you'll keep getting 99% results. If you want 1% results, you must change your thinking. Speak your goals aloud. I am capable. I am wealthy. I am unstoppable. Focus on abundance, not fear. Opportunities exist. Your mindset decides if you see them. Take consistent action every day, even if small. Momentum compounds. Learn from failures. They are stepping stones, not stop signs. Surround yourself with people who lift you, not those who limit you. The top 1% are not magical. They are human beings with a human brain, just trained to think differently. Your life can change the moment you start thinking like them. So today ask yourself, do I want to stay where I am? Or do I want to step into the world of possibility? Think differently. Speak differently. Act differently. And watch as the universe responds to the new you. Key takeaways. Your thoughts and words shape your reality. Speak success into existence. See opportunities where others see obstacles. Mindset determines outcome. Think in abundance, not scarcity. Create a bigger pie. rather than fighting over slices. Take consistent action. Belief without action achieves nothing. Learn from failures. They are stepping stones to success, not permanent setbacks. Surround yourself with empowering people and environments that support growth. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast empty field. The wind brushes your face and the soil beneath your feet is dark and fertile, ready to grow life, but it is empty. You look at it and see nothing but dirt, rocks, and weeds. You say to yourself, "There's nothing here. I can't make anything grow." Instantly, your mind closes like a door and that empty field remains barren. Now picture another person standing in the same field. They close their eyes, take a deep breath, and whisper, "I can make this bloom. I can turn this into something extraordinary." When they open their eyes, the field feels different. It feels alive, filled with potential, and somehow, almost magically, their energy seems to pull possibilities toward them. This is not fantasy. This is the power of words and thought, the invisible force that shapes reality. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Your word is your wand. The words you speak create your world." It is easy to dismiss these words as poetic, but think about your own life for a moment. How often have you said to yourself, "I'm not good enough, I'll never make it," or, "I can't do this"? Notice how these words feel heavy, almost like anchors tied to your spirit. They pull you down, limit your choices, and close doors before you even reach them. The mind doesn't differentiate between reality and imagination. When you speak a thought with conviction, your brain begins to act as though it is real, and your actions, or lack of them, follow. When you say, "I will fail," your mind subconsciously looks for evidence to confirm it, and suddenly, you trip over every obstacle, miss every opportunity, and the failure you feared seems inevitable. Now let's take a walk through history. Thomas Edison, the man whose inventions lit up the world, failed more than 1,000 times before perfecting the light bulb. One could imagine the despair, the discouragement, the temptation to give up. But Edison didn't see failure the way most of us do. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine saying that aloud after 1,000 disappointments. Most people would crumble. But Edison's words carried a different vibration. They were infused with belief, with unwavering faith in the unseen outcome. His thoughts and words shaped not only his perception but also the reality he eventually created. Think about the words you use in your daily life. When you wake up in the morning, do you greet yourself with hope or with doubt? "Today is going to be hard," or, "I can handle whatever comes"? Notice the difference in the energy each phrase generates. Words are magnets. They pull toward us what we focus on. If you repeat the thought, "I don't have enough," you start seeing scarcity everywhere. Opportunities that once seemed abundant appear scarce, doors feel closed, and the universe responds to that vibration. On the other hand, if you affirm, "I am open to abundance," suddenly your eyes catch opportunities you would have ignored, connections that matter appear, and ideas flow. Let me tell you about a young woman named Maya. She grew up in a small town, watching everyone around her struggle with debt and disappointment. She told herself, "I'll never get ahead. Life is too hard." At 18, she worked 2 jobs, barely making rent, always stressed, always tired. One day, she stumbled upon an old book by Florence Scovel Shinn, and one sentence stopped her in her tracks. "Whatever you affirm, you draw to yourself." It was like a lightning bolt had struck her mind. She began to experiment. Each morning she looked in the mirror and said, "I am capable. I am prosperous. I am worthy." At first it felt silly. Her bank account didn't change overnight, her struggles didn't disappear, but slowly the way she approached life shifted. She began noticing solutions, new ways to earn, people who offered guidance, and doors opening that she had never seen before. Within 5 years she had built a thriving business, traveled the world, and created a life that her younger self would have thought impossible. The seeds of success were planted the moment she changed her words. It is not just about speaking positive words. It is about feeling them deeply, letting them resonate in your bones. Imagine a child learning to walk. When they take a step, they don't think, "I might fall and fail." They just move. They don't calculate. They believe in motion. That same child's inner voice is pure potential. But as we grow, we start listening to doubts. "What if I fail? I'm not strong enough." Every negative phrase becomes a chain, limiting what we can do. The top 1% learn to speak in faith, not fear. They verbalize what they want as if it already exists, and the universe, responding to that frequency, aligns circumstances to match. Look around at the world's innovators. Oprah Winfrey grew up in poverty, faced abuse, and was told repeatedly she could never succeed. Yet she spoke vision aloud. I am destined for greatness. I will touch lives. Her words were a declaration to herself and the universe. And now she is a living testament to the truth that words and thoughts are not mere sounds. They are blueprints of reality. Even in everyday life, think about how you communicate with others. Have you ever been in a meeting or conversation where someone's energy and words lifted everyone up? And then the opposite. Someone's negative words brought everyone down? Words carry weight. They influence minds, emotions, and actions. They can either plant seeds of possibility or sow doubt and despair. This is why the top 1% guard their words carefully. They don't gossip. They don't dwell on problems. They speak vision, solution, and abundance. And the beauty of it is, the moment you start, there is no waiting period. You don't need permission, a degree, or a fortune. You simply begin to speak differently, think differently, feel differently. Imagine walking through a world where your words act like a beacon, attracting the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances. It starts with one thought, one sentence, one declaration that you choose to believe and repeat. So, the next time you look in the mirror or feel fear rising, remember this. Your words are not just expressions, they are the architects of your life. Speak as if what you desire is already here. Affirm your worth, your strength, your abundance. Say it even if you don't fully feel it yet. Say it until your heart believes it. Because the field before you, the life around you, responds to the vibration of your words. It listens. It aligns. Transforms. And slowly, inexorably, what you speak into existence begins to take form, filling the empty spaces with the extraordinary life you were meant to live. Imagine walking into a room filled with people all scrambling for the same small handful of coins. Everyone is pushing, shoving, and trying to grab as much as they can, afraid there won't be enough for them. The energy is tense, desperate, fearful. Now step outside that room and imagine someone else in a wide-open meadow, baking an enormous pie, inviting everyone to come and share, yet always cutting slices bigger than before. The energy is different. The air is lighter. Laughter floats through the air. People feel possibility instead of fear. The difference between these two scenarios is the difference between scarcity thinking and abundance thinking. Florence Scovel Shinn often reminded us that the world mirrors our mindset. What we believe about life, its limitations, its possibilities, creates the reality we experience. Scarcity thinking whispers in our ears, subtle but persistent. There isn't enough. Someone else will take it before you. You must fight for what little there is. And when we listen, life responds accordingly. You notice competition everywhere. You see doors closing, opportunities shrinking, success reserved for someone else. You stop creating, stop dreaming, and cling to what little you think you have. Scarcity thinking makes life a zero-sum game, where every win by someone else feels like a loss for you. But the top 1%, the people who shape industries, communities, and even history, understand a secret. Life is not zero-sum. Life is abundant. There's always more. And when you think that way, you begin to create more, pull more, and attract more into your world. Take the story of Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in history. When he rose from a poor Scottish immigrant to the steel magnate of the 19th century, he could have hoarded his wealth, kept his knowledge to himself, and fought ruthlessly for every dollar. But Carnegie believed in creating more wealth, more opportunity, more knowledge. He gave generously, invested in libraries, education, and philanthropy. He understood that success multiplies when shared. His abundance thinking didn't diminish his wealth. It expanded it because he saw opportunity as endless, a river flowing rather than a cup with a fixed amount of water. Now let's bring this closer to home. Imagine two entrepreneurs starting a business in the same city. The first sees the other as competition, someone who must be beaten, undercut, or outsmarted. Every strategy, every decision is clouded by fear of loss. The second entrepreneur sees the market differently. They see a need, a problem to solve, a community to serve. They innovate, collaborate, and create value that didn't exist before. While the first entrepreneur battles over scraps, the second expands the market, attracts loyal clients, and builds partnerships that multiply opportunities. Thinking in abundance changes the way we act. It changes the energy we bring into every room, every conversation, every deal. Think about your own life. How often do you focus on what you lack? Money, recognition, time, love? How often do you compare yourself to someone else, feeling that their success somehow takes away from yours? That's scarcity talking. But imagine shifting your perspective. Instead of fearing the success of others, you celebrate it. Instead of seeing limits, you see potential. Instead of hoarding, you create. You start to notice opportunities you never saw before, solutions you never imagined, paths opening that were invisible when your vision was clouded by fear. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Layla. She owned a small cafe in a crowded city where dozens of competitors fought for the same customers. Every morning she would see other cafes bustling and feel anxious. But one day she had an insight. Rather than competing for the same limited customers, what if she created experiences that no one else offered? She started hosting live music nights, local art exhibitions, and charity events. She didn't just sell coffee, she offered connection, joy, and a community space. Suddenly, the cafe wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. She didn't take customers from others, she expanded the market by offering something new. Her abundance thinking created a bigger pie for everyone, and in turn her success multiplied. Abundance thinking is not just about wealth or business. It shapes relationships, health, and personal fulfillment. When you believe there is more than enough love, friendship, and opportunity to go around, your interactions change. You stop feeling jealous, threatened, or competitive in unhealthy ways. You give freely, share knowledge, and lift others without fear. And in that generosity, life returns in ways that are often surprising. It is the principle of magnetism in action. What you give, you attract, and what you expect to exist often does. Imagine planting a seed in dry soil versus fertile soil. Scarcity thinking is like planting in a cracked, dry patch hoping something will grow. Abundance thinking is planting in rich, fertile ground, watering it consistently, knowing the sun and rain will nurture it. The same seed behaves very differently depending on the environment, and your mind creates that environment. When your mindset is fertile, creative, and abundant, opportunities flourish. Even famous athletes use this principle, often without naming it. Michael Jordan, in his prime, could have focused on opponents as threats, on limits as boundaries, and on failure as a constant companion. Instead, he focused on possibilities, on pushing beyond, on creating moments that didn't exist before. Every game, every practice, every shot he took was a declaration of abundance. There was always more to achieve, more skill to master, more greatness to tap into. Abundance thinking also frees you from fear. Scarcity locks you into worry, doubt, and hesitation. Abundance thinking replaces fear with faith. Faith that resources, ideas, love, and opportunities are plentiful. Faith that your contribution matters and will resonate. Faith that when you create, others will rise, and in that rise you rise too. Look at communities that thrive versus communities that stagnate. Thriving communities focus on collaboration, innovation, and shared success. They pool resources, ideas, and energy to grow together. Stagnant communities are consumed by jealousy, hoarding, and fear. The principle is the same at every scale, from individuals to nations. The mindset of abundance expands reality, scarcity contracts it. Even in our personal relationships, abundance thinking transforms interactions. When you approach others believing there is enough love, kindness, and respect to go around, you build stronger bonds. You give without keeping score. You support without expectation. You see the potential in others rather than competing with them. And in doing so, your life becomes richer, not just materially but emotionally and spiritually. And this abundance is not just an idea. It's a practice. You cultivate it by asking, how can I create more? How can I add value? How can I expand the pie? You notice every chance to innovate, to help, to collaborate. You stop worrying about what others are doing or taking and focus on what you can bring into the world. And slowly, inexorably, your life begins to mirror that mindset. Doors that once seemed closed open. Opportunities multiply. Relationships deepen. Success feels inevitable because you are not operating from fear, but from a wellspring of possibility. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a cliff, staring at the vast ocean below. The water glistens in the sunlight, full of possibility, yet he remains frozen. He believes he can swim across, he dreams of reaching the other side, he imagines the adventure waiting for him, but he doesn't step off. The waves lap against the rocks, mocking his hesitation. Belief alone is not enough. Action is the bridge between thought and reality, between dream and achievement. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Faith without works is dead." You can dream, you can speak affirmations, you can imagine success every day, but if your feet do not move, your hands do not work, and your heart does not push you forward, your vision remains trapped in the realm of imagination. Let me take you to the story of a young man named Daniel. Daniel always wanted to be a writer. He would sit at his desk, pen in hand, staring at blank pages, believing in his talent, reciting affirmations. "I am a great writer. I have stories the world needs." And yet, week after week, he wrote nothing. His belief was strong, his heart was passionate, but his actions were inconsistent. One day, a mentor told him, "Daniel, talent is invisible until you make it visible. Dreams are invisible until you act." Something clicked. That night, he set a goal. Write 500 words every day no matter what. At first, the words were awkward, messy, even painful to read, but he kept going. Each day the habit strengthened and slowly his talent became tangible. Within a year he had written a full manuscript, polished and ready to share. Belief opened the door, but action carried him through. Action is not always glamorous. It is often tedious, repetitive, and uncomfortable. The top 1% understand that success is not a single leap but countless small steps taken consistently. Think of a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. Each strike seems insignificant alone, but over time, a masterpiece emerges. You may feel discouraged when results don't appear immediately. You may ask yourself, is this even working? The answer is yes. The universe recognizes persistent effort and momentum compounds. Small steps repeated daily create enormous outcomes over time. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a worldwide phenomenon, she was a struggling single mother, writing in cafes while her baby slept beside her. She believed in her story, but belief alone did not create a billion-dollar empire. She wrote page after page, revising, submitting manuscripts, facing rejection after rejection. Each rejection was a test of action, a challenge to keep moving forward. Had she waited for the perfect moment or the perfect publisher, the world might never have known Harry Potter. She acted on her belief and the results were extraordinary. Even in business, action is what separates dreamers from achievers. Imagine an inventor who dreams of creating a revolutionary product. He sketches designs in his notebook, visualizes the finished product in his mind, speaks affirmations of success, yet never builds a prototype, never tests his ideas, never reaches out to potential partners. Meanwhile, another inventor with similar ideas starts small. One prototype, one pitch, one improvement at a time. By the end of the year, the second inventor has a working product, connections, and a customer base. The first inventor's belief is irrelevant because it did not meet action. Take a moment to think about your own life. How many times have you believed in a goal but delayed action, waiting for the right moment? That right moment rarely arrives. Time moves forward regardless of your readiness. Action is what transforms dreams into reality. And consistent action, repeated daily, compounds results in ways that are almost magical. It is the heartbeat of success, the engine that turns vision into existence. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Sophia. She dreamed of running a marathon, but she had never been athletic. Every morning she woke up thinking, "I want to run, I hope I can do it." But hope alone carried her nowhere. One day she made a decision. She would start small, running just 5 minutes every morning. She set her shoes by the door, she visualized herself crossing the finish line, and then she stepped outside. Some days were easy, some were excruciating. She stumbled, she got tired, she doubted herself. But she ran every day. 1 year later, she not only completed her first marathon but also discovered a resilience she had never known existed. Action created confidence, progress, and transformation. The top 1% also understand that action and belief must coexist. Belief without action is empty. Action without belief is aimless. They cultivate both simultaneously, speaking vision into existence while moving deliberately toward it. Every decision, every effort, every step aligns with a larger purpose. And when setbacks come, as they always do, they continue to act, adjusting, learning, and persisting. They know that failure is not a stop sign, it is a guidepost. Thomas Edison failed countless times before inventing the light bulb. Each failure, was a lesson, a signal that led him closer to success. He believed in the outcome, but he also acted tirelessly, relentlessly, until the light bulb illuminated the world. Even small, daily actions have exponential effects. Imagine dropping a single pebble into a pond. The ripples spread outward, affecting everything in their path. Each action you take sends ripples into your life, influencing your relationships, your career, and your opportunities. The key is to act consistently even when results are invisible. That consistency builds momentum, and momentum attracts more opportunity, more energy, and more confidence. Action also requires courage. Fear often paralyzes us, making us wait for a perfect plan or a perfect moment. But the truth is, action creates courage just as motion creates momentum. Each time you step forward despite fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Each time you try despite doubt, you move closer to the reality you desire. The top 1% embrace this principle. They do not wait for conditions to be perfect. They create the conditions through decisive, repeated effort. Think of the explorers of history. Christopher Columbus set sail into the unknown with a belief in discovery, but belief alone would not have reached the Americas. It was his action, day after day navigating storms, charting uncertain waters, facing ridicule, that made history. Magellan, Amelia Earhart, the Wright brothers, all combined belief with relentless action. Vision alone would have remained a dream. Action transformed it into reality. And in your personal life, action matters just as much. Want better relationships, better health, more financial stability? You must act. Speak your affirmations, yes, but also take tangible steps. Connect with people, exercise your body, invest your time wisely. The universe favors those who move, not those who linger. Momentum builds, doors open, and even obstacles become stepping stones when you keep moving. Action is the bridge between imagination and reality. It is the invisible thread that connects desire to achievement, thought to manifestation, dream to tangible experience. The top 1% do not simply wish for change. They take steps toward it every day, even when they cannot see the finish line. They act in faith, knowing that each effort compounds, each move matters, each small victory accumulates into monumental success. Picture a young boy standing on the edge of a playground swing, clutching the ropes, staring down at the ground below. He wants to fly, to soar higher than ever before, but the first time he jumps, he falls hard, scraping his knees, feeling the sting of failure. Tears blur his vision. Most children might give up, but some get back up. They adjust, they push off differently, they learn where their balance lies. Every scraped knee, every fall, every misstep is not a stop sign. It is a lesson, a guide, a whisper telling them, try again, but this time differently. The path to the top 1% is paved with these falls, with these lessons, with these moments that most people fear, ignore, or despise. Failures are uncomfortable. They humiliate, frustrate, and shake the very core of our confidence. Yet the top 1% see failure differently. They treat each setback as a teacher, each disappointment as a blueprint for growth. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Your word is your wand, and your thoughts are the seeds of your experiences. What you call a failure is merely a stepping stone toward your destiny." When you shift your perspective and see failure not as an end, but as information, suddenly every misstep becomes valuable, every mistake becomes a teacher, and every closed door becomes a nudge toward a better path. Consider the story of Walt Disney. Imagine being fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Think of the crushing weight of that judgment. Most people would have retreated into safety, believing the words of someone else defined their potential. But Walt Disney saw the feedback differently. He failed, but he did not let failure define him. He experimented, he tried again, and eventually he created a world beloved by millions. A place where imagination, creativity, and dreams take flight. Failure did not stop Disney. It guided him, honed him, and shaped the empire he built. Failure often feels like the end, but it is only the beginning for those who understand its value. Imagine a sculptor carving a statue. Every chip that chips off a piece of marble feels like destruction, but in truth, it reveals the form within. Every setback, every closed door, every no in life is a chip, slowly shaping you into the person you were meant to become. The top 1% embrace this chiseling process. They are not afraid of mistakes. They analyze them, adjust, and move forward with more knowledge and resilience than before. Let me tell you about a young entrepreneur named Ravi. Ravi poured his savings into a small tech startup. Within months, the product failed. Users didn't respond. Investors turned him down. The pain was real, deep, and public. Most people in his position would have quit. Most would have buried their dreams and never looked back. But Ravi took a different approach. He examined every detail: the design, the marketing, the pricing. He asked his customers where he went wrong, absorbed the feedback, and rebuilt the product. His second attempt became a breakthrough. Today his company is thriving. What made the difference? Not luck, not talent alone, but a mindset that saw failure as a step, not a stop. Failures also test courage, patience, and faith. They expose fear and doubt, but they also provide the opportunity to build character. Think of the countless inventors, scientists, and leaders who stumbled over and over again. Nikola Tesla faced bankruptcy, ridicule, and constant setbacks, yet he persisted, testing theories that most people would have abandoned. Marie Curie faced rejection and prejudice, yet she persisted, discovering radium and reshaping the world of science. Their failures were not ends, they were the soil in which greatness grew. Failure is also a form of feedback, a compass pointing to what needs to change. When something doesn't work, it is not a condemnation. It is a clue. It tells you where your approach was off, where your strategy needs adjustment, and where your focus must shift. The top 1% read failure like a map. They dissect it, understand it, and use it to navigate towards success. They don't hide from it. They don't fear it. They harness it. Even in personal life, failure can be transformative. Imagine a relationship that falls apart, leaving you heartbroken. It is painful, it is raw, it is tempting to retreat from trust. Yet, if approached with the right mindset, it becomes a profound teacher. You learn what you truly value, where your boundaries lie, how to communicate better, and how to recognize patterns that do not serve you. Every setback in relationships can guide you toward deeper connection and understanding in the future. Think about the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders, the founder of KFC. He faced rejection after rejection. Thousands of times he offered his chicken recipe and was turned down. At 75 years old, after decades of failure, he finally succeeded. He did not view those thousands of no's as the end of his journey. They were refining experiences, shaping his approach, strengthening his resolve. Today his image and brand are recognized worldwide. Success was never about avoiding failure. It was about persisting through it. Failure also teaches humility and empathy. When you stumble, you understand what it feels like to struggle, to be unsure, to feel the sting of disappointment. That understanding allows you to connect with others, mentor, inspire, and lead with authenticity. The top 1% are not detached from failure. They embrace it, learn from it, and use it to lift others as they rise. Even small failures, those we dismiss as minor setbacks, carry lessons. A missed deadline, a lost opportunity, a misunderstood message. All are part of the mosaic that shapes your growth. Each misstep teaches you something valuable. Timing, strategy, patience, communication, resilience. Every failure is a gift wrapped in discomfort, and those who learn to unwrap it find treasures that most people never see. And the beauty of failure is that it is not permanent. A failed project, a lost opportunity, a shattered plan, they do not define your trajectory. They are temporary markers, signs to adjust, learn, and pivot. The top 1% navigate through failure with an unwavering belief in possibility. They don't let a stumble dictate their destination. They rise, adjust, and continue stronger, wiser, and more prepared. Failure is, in essence, a rehearsal for success. It allows you to practice, to refine, to test your limits, and to understand what truly matters. Each misstep is a rehearsal for the moment when everything aligns, when preparation meets opportunity, and when the world witnesses the fruition of all the lessons learned in quiet struggle. The top 1% embrace failure as part of the journey, knowing that without it, there is no refinement, no mastery, no greatness. And this is why failure must be cherished, not feared. It is the fire that tempers steel, the storm that strengthens roots, the darkness that teaches the value of light. Every setback, every mistake, every disappointment is not the end of your story. It is a chapter, a teacher, a necessary step on the staircase to extraordinary achievement. Those who understand this truth move through life with resilience, courage, and unwavering faith, seeing each challenge as an opportunity to grow, adapt, and rise higher than before. Imagine walking into a dense forest, sunlight struggling to pierce through thick layers of leaves and branches. The air is heavy, the ground uneven, and every step feels like a struggle. Now imagine stepping into an open meadow bathed in golden light, where the air is fresh, the ground firm, and every step feels effortless, guided. The environment around us shapes us far more than we often realize. Just as plants grow towards sunlight and away from shadows, we too thrive or wither depending on the people and spaces that surround us. Florence Scovel Shinn once said, "Your environment reflects your inner world, and your inner world is influenced by your environment." The people you spend time with, the places you inhabit, and the energies you expose yourself to, these all have profound effects on your growth, your mindset, and the trajectory of your life. Consider this. Have you ever noticed how some friends lift you up, making even ordinary moments feel vibrant and full of possibility, while others drain your energy, leaving you tired, doubtful, and smaller than you felt before? Empowering people ignite your potential, challenge you to rise, and reflect back the greatness you sometimes forget exists in yourself. On the other hand, negative or stagnant influences subtly whisper doubt into your mind, encourage hesitation, and normalize mediocrity. The top 1% understand this deeply. They curate their circles deliberately, choosing mentors, peers, and allies who fuel their vision rather than dim it. Let me tell you a story about a young woman named Aisha. Aisha had always dreamed of starting her own business, but she was surrounded by people who said, "It's too risky, you don't have enough experience, maybe you should just wait." Every conversation chipped away at her confidence, leaving her paralyzed and unsure. One day she attended a small entrepreneur networking event, and there she met a group of passionate, driven individuals who believed in possibility over fear. They shared ideas, celebrated each other's wins, and encouraged bold action. Something inside Aisha shifted. Surrounded by energy that believed in growth and potential, she found her courage. She started her business, and today it thrives. The difference was not just in her talent or effort. It was in the environment and people she chose to surround herself with. Even famous leaders and innovators exemplify this principle. Steve Jobs, during the early days of Apple, surrounded himself with people who complemented his vision, challenged his ideas, and pushed boundaries. He sought collaboration with minds that were brilliant and bold, not those that were cautious or fearful. The energy of his team amplified his own ideas, turning concepts into groundbreaking technology. Jobs understood that even the brightest mind cannot flourish in isolation. It needs mirrors, mentors, and sparks from others to reach its full potential. The environment is just as critical as the people. Imagine a student trying to study in a chaotic, noisy room versus a quiet, organized space filled with books, inspiring images, and natural light. In which setting do you think ideas flow more freely? Where does focus deepen, creativity blossom, and motivation rise? The spaces we inhabit shape our thoughts, our habits, and our energy. The top 1% are deliberate about both people and surroundings. They invest in environments that nurture clarity, inspiration, and productivity, and they remove themselves from spaces that breed doubt, distraction, or negativity. Even small, subtle choices in your environment matter. Picture the daily commute to work. Are you listening to gossip, complaining colleagues, or energy-draining news? Or are you filling that time with empowering podcasts, motivational stories, and ideas that expand your mind? Every moment, every exposure, is a seed planted in your subconscious. Surround yourself with those who inspire and challenge you, and your subconscious absorbs possibility and strength. Surround yourself with stagnation and your growth slows, often without you realizing it. Let me tell you about a young man named Omar. Omar loved writing but had no confidence to share his work. He was stuck in a circle of friends who mocked his dreams and discouraged his efforts. One day he discovered an online community of writers who critiqued constructively, celebrated improvement, and shared stories of persistence. Immersed in that environment, Omar began submitting articles, receiving feedback, and growing exponentially. Within a few years he published his first book. His growth accelerated not because he suddenly became more talented, but because he moved into an empowering environment that nurtured it. Mentorship is another crucial layer of this principle. Surrounding yourself with people who have already walked the path you aspire to follow is like having a map in a vast, uncharted territory. You learn shortcuts, avoid common pitfalls, and gain insight that might otherwise take decades to accumulate. Benjamin Franklin, one of history's great polymaths, thrived not merely because of his own genius but because he sought out mentors, collaborators, and thinkers who challenged and inspired him. His success was amplified by the minds he engaged with. Even in personal development, the company you keep sets the tone for your ambitions. If you are constantly around people who complain, doubt, or settle for mediocrity, those patterns seep into your thinking. You begin to mirror the limitations around you. But when you intentionally choose relationships filled with optimism, drive, and possibility, your thoughts, habits, and actions shift almost naturally toward growth. It is the principle of influence in motion. The energy around you becomes the energy within you. Think of your life as a garden. The people you surround yourself with are like the sun, the water, and the nutrients that determine how your seeds of potential grow. Toxic, negative, or stagnant influences are like weeds that choke, shade, and drain your energy. You can't grow optimally if the environment isn't aligned with your vision. The top 1% prune their networks carefully. They invest in relationships that elevate, challenge, and inspire. They cultivate spaces that foster clarity, focus, and creativity. Even in times of struggle, empowering people and environments can make the difference between surrender and breakthrough. Imagine facing a critical challenge, feeling the weight of doubt, fear, and exhaustion. One word of encouragement, one supportive conversation, one shared strategy can reignite your fire and propel you forward. Surrounding yourself with those who believe in you strengthens your resilience, amplifies your energy, and sustains your momentum. And this principle extends beyond people and spaces to experiences and media. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the stories you immerse yourself in, all become part of your environment. Consuming material that challenges, inspires, and expands your perspective reinforces a mindset of growth, while negative or limiting content reinforces fear, doubt, and stagnation. The top 1% guard these choices carefully, curating every input to serve their vision. Ultimately, the people and spaces you inhabit are like mirrors, reflecting back who you are and who you are becoming. Surround yourself with those who stretch you, challenge you, and encourage your potential, and you begin to see yourself differently. Your energy rises, your courage grows, and your vision expands. The opposite is also true. Neglect this principle and stagnation, doubt, and limitation quietly seep into every corner of your life. History, business, art, and life are full of stories proving this truth. Oprah Winfrey, for example, credits much of her early growth to mentors, teachers, and environments that nurtured her curiosity, resilience, and talent. The top 1% rarely achieve monumental success alone. They build networks, communities, and spaces that reflect the highest version of themselves, then step into those spaces daily with intentionality and focus. Surround yourself with empowerment, challenge, and inspiration, and your life begins to mirror it. The energy you absorb becomes the energy you emit. The people you choose to be near become the architects of your habits, your mindset, and ultimately your success. This is why choosing your circle and your environment is not trivial. It is a decisive factor in whether you stagnate or soar, whether you achieve mediocrity or extraordinary impact. Imagine waking up in the morning and hearing a voice inside your head whispering, "You're not ready. You'll never succeed. Why even try?" That voice, subtle yet persistent, colors your perception of the day before it even begins. Every step feels heavier, every decision more daunting, every opportunity dimmed by doubt. Now imagine that instead your inner dialogue says, "I am capable. I can handle this. Every challenge is an opportunity." Suddenly, your posture straightens, your steps feel lighter, and possibilities appear where before there were none. This is the transformative power of mindset. Florence Scovel Shinn often emphasized that your inner world, your thoughts, beliefs, and self-talk shapes your outer reality. The top 1% understand this instinctively. They cultivate their inner dialogue as carefully as a gardener tends a prized garden, knowing that what grows in the mind ultimately manifests in the world around them. Consider the story of Thomas, a man who grew up in a small town, always told by teachers, neighbors, and even family that he was not ambitious enough or not capable of great things. For years he believed them. He approached life cautiously, never taking risks, always shrinking to fit expectations. Each day reinforced the story his mind told him: he was limited, he was small, he was not enough. Then one evening, while reading a book on personal growth, he encountered a passage that struck him like lightning: "Change your thoughts and you change your life." That night he began practicing small shifts in his inner dialogue. Every morning he stood before the mirror and declared, "I am capable. I am worthy. I can create success." At first it felt awkward, almost foolish. But over weeks, months, and years, the repetition rewired his perception. He began noticing opportunities he had ignored, doors that had seemed closed opened, and people responded differently to his energy. The transformation began inside long before the world mirrored it. Your mindset acts like a lens through which you see every event, every person, every challenge. Two people can experience the same situation and interpret it in entirely different ways, depending on their internal dialogue. One person faces a setback and thinks, "I am a failure. I can't handle this." Another thinks, "This is temporary. I can learn and grow." The first sees walls, the second sees doors. The top 1% learn to intentionally sculpt their inner dialogue to see doors where others see walls. They choose thoughts that expand rather than contract their sense of possibility. Even historical figures exemplify this principle. Abraham Lincoln faced countless rejections, failures in business, political defeats, and deep personal grief. Yet he famously said, "My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure." Lincoln mastered his inner dialogue, refusing to let doubt and despair dictate his actions. He reframed failure as feedback, disappointment as instruction, and obstacles as opportunities. His mindset became a compass guiding him through adversity to achievements that reshaped a nation. Let me tell you a story about a young athlete named Elena. She dreamed of competing in the Olympics but was constantly told she lacked the natural talent, the strength, the discipline. Early in her training, she would hear an inner voice echoing those criticisms. Each negative thought threatened to derail her progress. Then she met a coach who emphasized mindset mastery, teaching her to recognize, challenge, and replace self-doubt with affirmations of capability and resilience. Elena began to internalize the belief that she was stronger than her fears, more capable than her doubts. She visualized success before each competition, repeating affirmations, "I am focused. I am strong. I rise to every challenge." Slowly, her performance transformed. She didn't just train her body, she trained her mind. The inner dialogue dictated her outer results. Mindset mastery also means taking responsibility for your thoughts. You cannot always control external circumstances, but you can control how you interpret them. When a setback occurs, the top 1% do not automatically spiral into defeat. They ask, "What can I learn? How can I adapt? What opportunity is hidden here?" Every thought is intentional, every internal statement aligned with growth, resilience, and possibility. Negative self-talk is not ignored. It is consciously challenged and replaced with empowering alternatives. Imagine the mind as a garden. Every thought is a seed. Negative thoughts, doubt, fear, resentment, are weeds that can overtake the space, choking out possibility. Positive, empowering thoughts, confidence, gratitude, vision, are sunlight, water, and fertile soil. Without deliberate cultivation, weeds spread. With careful attention, the garden flourishes. The top 1% spend time each day tending their mental garden, consciously planting thoughts that align with their desired outcomes and removing those that do not. Consider Sarah, a business owner who faced constant stress and pressure. Her inner dialogue was filled with worry. "I can't handle this. I'll never grow fast enough. I am not smart enough." Her business stalled. Then she started journaling daily, writing positive affirmations, visualizing her goals, and consciously challenging negative thoughts as they arose. Within months, she noticed subtle but powerful changes. She made better decisions, attracted motivated employees, and noticed opportunities that had previously been invisible. The shift started internally but manifested externally in tangible growth and success. Mastering your mindset also requires emotional awareness. The inner dialogue is rarely just words. It carries feelings, energy, and vibration. When thoughts are steeped in fear or self-doubt, the body and brain respond with tension, hesitation, and indecision. When thoughts are confident, positive, and proactive, the body responds with energy, clarity, and courage. The top 1% harness this connection, realizing that emotional resonance amplifies the power of thought. They speak to themselves with encouragement, affirm capability, and anchor confidence in action. Even creative geniuses relied on mindset mastery. Vincent van Gogh, despite repeated rejection, poverty, and self-doubt, persisted in painting, continually affirming his vision, feeding the belief that his work mattered. The world eventually recognized his genius, but it was his unwavering internal dialogue, his commitment to his vision, that propelled him through years of struggle. The most powerful part of mindset mastery is that it is always within your control. You cannot always choose your circumstances, the actions of others, or the challenges life throws at you, but you can choose your inner response. You can decide the words, tone, and energy of your internal dialogue. You can challenge limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering ones. You can create mental habits that align with the life you want, shaping your reality from the inside out. And this mastery is cumulative. Every thought you choose, every belief you reinforce, every inner statement of possibility builds momentum. Over time, it transforms perception, behavior, and ultimately results. The top 1% understand that this is not an abstract concept. It is a practical, daily practice. They meditate, journal, visualize, affirm, and consciously direct their attention, sculpting a mind that consistently produces success, resilience, and growth. Imagine standing before a mirror each day and seeing not just your reflection, but the reflection of your potential. Every word you speak to yourself, every thought you nurture, every belief you reinforce shapes that reflection and, in turn, the world you create. Mastering your mindset is not a one-time achievement. It is a daily commitment to curating your inner dialogue, directing your thoughts, and deliberately shaping the lens through which you perceive, act, and succeed. As we wrap up, remember this: the top 1% think differently, act boldly, and shape their reality from the inside out. Now it's your turn. Will you step into that mindset or stay where you are? If you're ready to level up, hit that subscribe button. Not because I asked, but because every insight here could change the way you live, act, and win. Comment below. Which principle will you start applying today, and how will it transform your life? Knowledge is power, but action is unstoppable, so choose to rise, not just watch.